everybody. Welcome to a bonus episode for the masses. It is our 1 year anniversary of doing the Macaw podcast universe. A year ago today, we came out with our very first episode,
Iron Man,
and we discussed that. So today we're going to look back on the pod, look toward the future, and we're also going to start a kind of silly but fun yearly tradition with this podcast. And today we're going to be talking about The Land Before Time, a series that I believe has 14 sequels. And every year we're going to take on a new...
Are they called sequels when there's 14 of them?
Yeah?
I thought sequels were just the second movie.
No, it's anything preceding the first.
Oh, okay.
So this is exciting, folks. Strap in, because over the next 15 years, you're going to hear the entire Land Before Time saga, and we'll have a whole year to mull over the movie. So, anyway, you want to jump in on anything?
And what? What do you mean?
Well, it's our 1 year anniversary. It's a we don't have to just talk about... This is a
Never
special
thought
episode.
we'd be here. Let me tell... I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It doesn't even feel like a year. It feels like we've been doing this for... a couple months still.
Oh.
Even though we've watched so many movies.
Yeah.
I think once we're done recording an episode, I immediately forget everything. Because I'm done with it.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times I'm done talking about it.
Yeah.
So
what's funny, and I mean, we appreciate people talking to us about stuff. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But it is funny because a lot of times we record so far in advance that someone might mention something about an episode that just came out, and I don't remember what they were talking, like what we talked about. So I'm like, what? And then usually they'll kind of remind me, and they're like, oh, yeah. Yes, I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I thought maybe it'd be kind of fun to do a little retrospective on the series we've covered at all, if we have any
What
thoughts
series?
on them. All the
All of
series
them?
we've covered.
Never thought my mind and heart would be changed on Marvel. That's my biggest retrospective.
Mm-hmm.
Going into it, really dreading rewatching most of them and discovering that a lot of the ones I disliked the most, I discovered these are actually really good. And then maybe some of them that I thought were good ended up being really boring.
Yeah. But
A weird flip-flop on a lot of them.
do you remember any in particular?
Captain America ended up being really good.
The first Avenger.
The first Avenger.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, dang. I was like making fun of this movie in theaters. And then Winter Soldier sucked so much to me. And then I remember when I saw it the first time, though, it was like, man, that one's actually pretty good. Like, finally. And ending up just being so bored this time around with it.
Well, I think that speaks to a funny thing about both the fact that, of course, we get older and tastes change.
Yeah.
But also, I think as life progresses and like the industry progresses, there's certain things that like when you retrospectively look back on them, you kind of see what was good about it and what's not.
Watching them all so close together.
Yeah.
When in actuality, we were all waiting a year for each one, sometimes longer for each movie.
Yeah.
So you do watch it differently that way.
Yeah. And like one thing I'm thinking about is this morning I saw an article that is like Andy Serkis talking about the new Batman movie. And he said,
is he in it?
Yeah, he's Alfred, which is a cool casting choice,
Okay.
I think. But he said
This has got to be the weirdest cast for a Batman movie I've ever seen. And I know there are weird casts.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But he's like, oh, this Batman's going to be a lot darker than the rest. And I'm just like...
That gives me big red flags, by the way.
But speaking to your point, it's like... So maybe we'll see it and we'll just be like, great, another dark Batman. Like, big whoopity doodah, you made it dark. Who cares? But maybe in 20 years when you don't have it connected to like the 18 Batman movies that have come out recently, maybe you'd be like, oh, this is really good.
But this is because of Joker. So I hear that this one's going to be a lot darker. And it's like, oh, like Joker?
Right.
That doesn't really make me excited for it.
No.
If that's the context that it's hard to not think about it in, oh, so it's going to be like Joker.
Yeah. And
Which was the biggest disappointment of 2019.
Yeah, I guess.
It was a pretty big disappointment.
Yeah. I guess, but leading up to it, there was so much like negative press and like nobody that I followed as critics like even remotely liked it. So when the movie, I didn't like it.
My expectations were pretty high.
I'm speaking for myself.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, by the time I saw the movie, I was like, okay, it wasn't as bad as people said it was. That was kind of what I thought about it. But as time looks back on it, it gets worse.
I just am still not convinced that Robert Pattinson will be a good Batman.
He's going to be a perfect Batman.
But he'll be a really good Bruce Wayne.
Oh, yeah.
And then I can't even begin to wrap my head around Paul Dano. I can't even begin.
That's amazing.
And he's like one of my favorite actors. Top 3 probably. So I don't know.
But I just don't know why. I don't know. It's just a silly thing that when people think Batman, it has to be dark.
Yeah.
And especially, which Blank Check pointed out, but if you watch the recent, the Christopher Nolan trilogy, it's actually not like, it's not as dour as people make it out to be. It's actually, they're fun movies. They have fun. Mm-hmm. So
I think they're just pretty realistic. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's dark about it.
Yeah.
Going back on the retrospective, I was also, not that I needed to be reminded, but continue to be reminded that Guardians of the Galaxy is the best.
Yeah.
In the series.
And Endgame.
And Endgame. Well, yeah,
that's kind of a given.
Yeah. But
one that I wish, but because I get it why it's like our least popular series, but I really liked our Mad Max series. Mm-hmm. But it's older, and you know,
it's not just older, it's weirder too.
Yeah,
it's pretty out there, which I think is part of the charm of it. But
one of my favorites though was the Shrek series, because we walked out of it with an opinion that I don't think anyone else in the world has
about the fourth movie.
The fourth is the best movie.
To be charmed by Shrek. That's the headline.
Yeah, it's. The fourth movie is the best movie. And it's one of those things where it's like, oh, if we had, you know, like the amount of podcast listeners that like a lot of movie podcasts have, the narrative about Shrek would maybe change a little bit, which would be cool. But hopefully our fans are out there advocating that Shrek 4 Ever After is the best Shrek movie.
Or we just didn't convince anyone. Go ahead. Oh, it was nice seeing your love for Harry Potter be sparked.
That's
finally.
What I was going to say. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm full on in, and I think our Fantastic Beasts episodes were particularly excellent because we spent so much time with Harry Potter, and we really got down to why Fantastic Beasts is fundamentally not good. Mm-hmm. But I think my favorite ep is still Toy Story 1 with Daniel Grissom.
Cool.
I think that was just an excellent... that whole series is still my favorite series we've done. In terms of, I just think every episode we really, like production-wise, of the... and like talking about how the movies were made and the story and all that stuff, we really nailed those. And then, of course, Twilight. What a ride that was.
And Hunger Games. Is this coming out after a Hunger Games?
Yeah, I think this is after Catching Fire. So,
you know, it is nice to get a lot of these young adult things out of the way in the first year.
But as you're listening, friends, we got some big plans. We got some pretty exciting series coming up, which we're not going to spoil on here. But we do have the Patreon series will be next after Hunger Games, which at the time of the recording of this, we don't know who won.
Yeah. We know it's not Mission Impossible. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. We're down to the final like 6. So in the final 4 bracket so far, it's Lord of the Rings versus Johnny English, and then whoever wins today, which it's Dark Knight versus How to Train Your Dragon, and then whoever wins tomorrow. I don't remember what the lineup is tomorrow, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Land Before Time.
Okay.
So it's directed by Don Bluth, who did Titan AE, Anastasia.
Wow.
Bartok the Magnificent, the sequel to Anastasia.
Oh, okay.
About the bat. A Troll in Central Park, Thumbelina, Rockadoodle, All Dogs Go to Heaven, and An American Tail.
What's an American? Is that the mouse?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then it's produced by Don Bluth and Gary Goldman and John Pomeroy. Similar to they all kind of produce the same stuff. Screenplay by Stu Krieger, who did the 1995 Freaky Friday, Troll in Central Park, and Monkey Trouble.
Nice. Big Jordan movie.
Monkey Trouble?
Yes.
Wait, what is Monkey Trouble?
That's with the girl and the monkey.
Oh, I was thinking Monkey Trouble was the Brandon Fraser movie.
Let me double check.
But I think you're right.
No, Monkey Trouble is this girl that finds this like spider monkey and they become friends, but the monkey belongs to this crotchety guy that's like creepy and weird. And he's trying to get his monkey back, and it's just such a wild ride. Harvey
Really?
Keitel is the weird guy.
Oh, cool.
That's right.
Is it that movie?
And it's this girl, Thora Birch, who like isn't in anything anymore, but she was like a really good child actress.
Okay. Yeah, that's totally out of my knowledge. You want me to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay, screenplay. Oh, yeah, I already said who
she's in
did
American
the screenplay.
Beauty. His daughter.
Oh, okay. And then the story's by Judy Froudberg, who did a bunch of Sesame Street and did the story for An American Tail. And Tony Geis, who did Sesame Street and Blue's Clues. Those are all people
Were you a
involved.
Blue's Clues watcher?
Yeah, I used to watch that a lot.
Me too.
Music by James Horner, and he's the James Cameron guy. Karate Kid, the new Karate Kid anyway. Apocalypto, Legend of Zorro,
The
A Beautiful
Jaden
Mind.
Smith?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it's produced by Amblin Entertainment. So
Is that
Steven.
his name?
What, James Horner?
No, Jaden Smith.
Jaden Smith, yeah. And then
Keep going. Sorry.
produced by Amblin Entertainment, which is a ding ding. That's Steven Spielberg and Sullivan Bluth. And so we have the movie comes out November 18th, 1988, with a box office of $48,092,846 and a worldwide total of 84.5 million, a little less than 500,000, 84.5. I've been told that the specific numbers you can round. Okay, so I might be rounding from here on out, folks.
Oh.
So during American Tail, Spielberg wanted to do something like Bambi, but with dinosaurs.
Well, he did it.
Yeah. And George Lucas brought on the early idea to have no dialogue. He wanted no dialogue originally. And then an early title idea was The Land Before Time Began.
Okay.
19 fully animated scenes were cut, which is about 10 minutes. Spielberg thought they were too dark, which made some continuity error with the T-Rex's blindness.
I just thought that was a cool touch.
What do you mean?
Oh, I mean, didn't one of its eyes like not really open half the time?
Yeah.
I just thought that was a fun
But
touch.
it gets, when they first see the T-Rex, there's only one eye open. And then later in that same scene, a thorn hits him in the eye.
Yeah.
Which it's supposed to like make him blind and then he doesn't have the eye.
Oh, I get it.
And then throughout the movie, he sometimes has two and sometimes has one.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Which I never noticed as a kid, but it was pretty obvious if you watch it now. And then the theatrical release had Brad Bird's short Family Dog from Amazing Stories, which was a show that Steven Spielberg was the like main headrunner of. And so that's kind of like the beginning of Brad Bird.
Wow.
Back then. And if you aren't familiar, folks, he's Incredibles, a big Pixar guy.
If they had voted for Mission Impossible, they would have found out about Brad Bird. But as a punishment, we're not going to talk about him.
Oh, okay. And then finally, this is very sad. Judith Barcy, who was Ducky, shortly after this movie was released, was murdered by her father, who did a murder-suicide with mother. He killed the mother and his daughter and killed himself, which is incredibly sad.
I read that he was very abusive the whole time, and it looked like this is very brief looking at it, but looked like he had been reported a lot, but sounded like the wife didn't do a lot of pressing charges.
Yes,
like very complicated situation. You know,
she was scared, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So. That's all the production notes I have for The Land Before Time.
Cool.
You want to just jump into the movie?
Yes.
So, movie starts, and we're in the water, and I just forget how much I love this animation.
Me too.
I don't think it'll ever make the comeback in terms of what I'm about to say, but I really like the simplicity of like a painted background and then animated characters on the background. And that might just be nostalgia goggles, really. But I think it's just like this movie is so pretty. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the reason why I love this movie is I watched it 100 times when I was a kid. But I think it is a good movie.
Totally. I mean, it deals with a lot of big things.
It's kind of like a pre-Pixar movie.
Yeah, because I mean, his mom dies, and it's very sad.
Yeah.
Very sad. So it's about grief. Because there's a lot of them showing Littlefoot grieving. But then it's about friendship.
Yeah.
Because he makes friends, and it is about moving on. But, well, like, moving on, but not forgetting his mom. Like, that was a big point that was made.
It's kind of like grieving and then having your friends help you with your grieving.
Yes.
Is kind of what it
and believing in each other. That's like Sarah's big storyline too. I mean, it's about pride, but also about not trusting others.
Yeah. And that's the movie.
Pretty much in a nutshell. So, it shows them, like, it shows the little dinosaurs being born, hatching out of an egg. Very cute. Littlefoot is so adorable. And
he's great.
Showing it, just establishing, like, they're the long necks. They have to keep moving to find the green stuff, and they're trying to find the Great Valley that's full of green stuff.
Yeah.
And on their journey to that, Littlefoot tries to become friends with Sarah, who's
she's what do they call a longhorn or something like that?
Well, they call her a three-horn. But what's the dinosaur?
Oh, I think it's a triceratops.
Okay. But her parents are like, three horns only stay with three horns.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, that's another layer of this whole thing. But you want to talk about the earthquake?
Yeah, then there's a big old earthquake. It's like the separation of Pangea.
Really just fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And they get separated, and in that time, there's a T-Rex attack, and
I don't know how they did all that.
What do you mean?
Well, it's just kind of a crazy concept of someone's like, okay, guys, so there are these dinosaurs, they're herbivores, and they're going to be attacked by a T-Rex. They didn't have to do anything else for me. That's exciting enough. But then someone else is probably like, okay, but also on top of that, we're talking about splitting of the earth. There's going to be a huge earthquake during the T-Rex attack. Which is so crazy because it's not just about like survival of the fittest. It's about just like the earth is above every living thing in a way, because it's still that created change more than whatever the T-Rex was going to do.
Sure.
And like all like their existence is based on adapting, because they had to adapt to that. He had to adapt to his mom dying. He had to adapt to friendship and the hardships that they went through.
Well, and there's a lot of fun, like for example, so I talked about the backgrounds, how they're just painted, and then they're animated on top of that, which I really like. But you think about now, like you watch a Pixar movie and like the background is moving. It really looks like a camera set up somewhere. But I like that, and it's fun too, like when they're crumbling down a rock or something like that, and you can see which rocks are going to crumble before they crumble. Yeah. Which reminded me of Castle in the Sky. Do you remember when the castle is falling? There's some fact about that like I think they like individually animated all those stones, which when you look at the perspective of this movie versus that, I mean, that sequence alone must have taken them 6 months to animate.
Probably just the whole team doing just that.
Yeah. And when you watch that scene, you can't tell which parts are going to be crumbling. Yeah. Which is insane. Yeah. Castle in the Sky rules. Too bad there's not 3 of those. Yeah. But there are a lot of Lupine movies. Yeah. We'll see. And then there's the awesome little tree star leaf. And watching this movie, it reminded me that as a kid and now, like, I don't think this is across the board, but every scene is pretty iconic to me. Me too. And I'm sure that's just because of our age, not because of like the cultural zeitgeist is like, yes, this scene's iconic and this is. But like seeing the tree star is like, oh yeah. And then he sees his reflection in the tree star later. Oh yeah, that scene. And all of that stuff is really, really awesome. We meet Spike, eventually.
Wait, we talk about Ducky.
Oh yeah,
What's
talk
the
about the
pterodactyl's name? Petrie. Yeah, so he meets Ducky, who accepts him right out the gate, and because the Littlefoot's like, only long necks can be with long necks.
Yeah,
and she tries to make him feel like, I'm a long neck, even though she's not. She's my favorite character as a kid. Mm-hmm. It was I was like, I would be like, yep.
Oh yeah.
I'd love it.
Oh yeah.
So she is very accepting of him early on. She's also been separated from her parents, and then soon after that, they meet Petrie, who's a pterodactyl. Mm-hmm. Same situation, separated from family. I love his little storyline that he can't fly yet.
Yeah,
because he's too scared,
and he learns later.
Yes, and and then eventually they do meet Spike, who Spike. Ducky helps hatch out of his egg, and he's so adorable.
And I don't know how intentional it is, but I love how his egg is really small, and immediately he's probably 5 times bigger than the egg.
Yeah, I know, because Ducky wasn't that much smaller than the egg.
No,
but then when it's Spike out of the egg, she's so tiny compared to him.
And Spike's cool because he's just lethargic and he's always eating and trying to sleep. Mm-hmm.
And he never just speaks. Hatched out of an egg.
Yeah. Awesome. They go through, they eventually, we're not making this a long episode.
No.
This is a little fun bonus.
Yeah. I like that the, most of the backgrounds painted were oranges, pinks, reds, mm-hmm. and yellows. In a way, it's like a desert pretty much.
Yeah. But it's pretty.
Yeah, it is pretty.
It's a pretty desert.
But then once they reach the Great Valley, it's like so
green.
All the other colors combined with it, and it's very beautiful. Almost makes you wish they'd spent more time in it. Not really, but it's like, oh, I hope there's more of these adventures in this place.
Well, there's 14 more.
I know.
I kind of watching these old cartoons, because ever since Disney Plus came out, Jordan and I every once in a while will just throw on an old cartoon that we used to watch when we were kids, and I do kind of miss in kids' movies when they used to just, and in movies in general, a lot of movies would just be like, they'd get to the end of the story and they'd be like, over. Yeah. They wouldn't spend like 20 minutes wrapping everything up, where you're like in the theater, you're checking your watch and you're like, okay, I get it. I mean, I get it. And that's not necessarily bad, but I mean, I would never imagine a Pixar movie ending right there.
I would also say that the movies start quicker.
Yeah, they just kind of, it's fun to watch a movie that, even though, especially with the knowledge of this movie getting edited so much and losing like 10 minutes of footage, I think there is some stuff that feels a little cobbled together, but it's nice to watch an hour and 10-minute movie that just never really stops and is like over. It begins, goes, ends.
And every character develops in their own way.
Yeah, and I think that's cool, and I mean, it's dinosaurs too. Come on. I'm going to like it.
I think in some ways, children's movies now, and I don't have a kid, so I can't totally probably speak to this because I'm not a parent, but I think that kids' movies they don't hold kids' hands as much anymore. Mm-hmm. People might totally disagree with me, and I'm sure there's really valid reasons, but I feel like older kids' movies are like sometimes a little bit more obvious about things. Mm-hmm. But now I feel like because it seems like they just take their time.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I feel like that didn't really make sense.
Well, I think how I'm interpreting what you're saying to what makes sense to me is that I think a lot of these old movies, like their stories are just really simple.
I guess
where it's like they just need to get to the valley, but you think about like Frozen or something. Even though I haven't seen the movie, I will eventually. But it seems like a fairly convoluted plot. So if you're like a little kid, you have to like watch it a few times till you get it.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I don't know, but it does seem like, or like Onward, it did make sense and it all tracked. But some of the details are a little like, oh, okay, I got to remember that. And then, and that's a callback to the other thing. And we love movies. We don't want them to hold our hands.
No.
We're just saying that Land Before Time is a really breezy, nice movie that just goes A to B to C. And it's beautiful. And
it tackles some pretty big subjects for children.
Yeah. And at the very beginning, there is a song that plays as the credits are about to start. And it is very similar to some stuff that Hans Zimmer used in Interstellar, which is kind of fun. Because at the beginning of the movie, I was like, oh, man, I'm getting emotional. And then I was like, oh, it's because this theme is in Interstellar. So Anyway,
I wonder if any of that is true. Like if maybe, I don't know how he works, but like let's say he just thinks of things for inspiration for a movie, and he's pulling from hundreds of different sources, and maybe Land Before Time, because it is about, in a way,
he just Googled time.
Like time, humanity. I know there are no humans in this, but there's humanity in it.
Yeah.
And do you know what I mean? Like it has like, in a way, just some themes about life.
I'm assuming that it was probably just in his brain from seeing the movie, or it's just like the melody is not. It's not wild to me. It's not like a Deer Hunter melody where it'd be like, you rip that off. It's like, it wouldn't be wild to me because it's like two notes that are played in a similar fashion. Who did the Deer Hunter
rip off?
No, I'm saying like it would be hard to rip off a Deer Hunter melody. Here's what I'm saying. If like Deer Hunter has these really complex melodies with a ton of notes.
Yeah.
So if you heard that in another song, you'd be like, they ripped off the Deer Hunter. But this one is like the Land Before Time. It's like two notes, and it's like dun dun or something like that. I can't remember. And then in Interstellar, it's the same and about the same timing.
Yes.
But it's like, I don't know.
So he did use this movie 100%. We don't have to think about it anymore. I think that we have probably gone deeper into Land Before Time than anyone has. Probably.
And if you tune in next year, we're going to do Land Before Time 2. So that's what we got on Land Before Time. We breezed through it. This Friday, you'll be back on your regularly scheduled program and followed by the Patreon series. Now, a couple of things to talk about here at the end. Patreon, you patrons, we're doing something different. Well, and even you not patrons, maybe this will convince you to come over to the Patreon. So we have decided from here on out, besides fun bonus episodes we want to do, every month we're going to come out with an episode on the Patreon, but we're going to be covering series with only 2 entries. And that's what we're going to do on the Patreon. So you'll be following complete series over there as well. We're still going to stick to the trilogies and over on this regularly scheduled program because we don't want to take that away from you guys. But if you want to head on over to patreon.com/MicahMcCaw, you can sign up for as little as $3 a month, and you can get your bonus episode every month. So it's May. So June, our next episode, we're going to kick the whole thing off with Finding Nemo.
Oh, that was decided.
It was yesterday when we were on our walk.
I don't remember deciding.
Well,
I thought Monsters, Inc. was thrown around in there.
We are going to do that soon.
Okay.
We're going to cover a few of the Pixar ones because I forgot about Incredibles. So I think we might go Finding Nemo, Incredibles, Monsters. So that's your next 6 months on the Patreon because one will come out each month. So anyway, please sign up, and thank you for listening, everybody. I feel like we're starting to get a nice fan base, and people are actually listening, and people are sending us texts. I got an email where someone sent me like 8 series that they wanted, that they were like, maybe you should cover these. Should I read that? No? Okay. But
just because we get so many suggestions, so
yeah. But it was
nice
just
to get
cool.
an email from someone we don't know.
I've never met this person, and so they just sent the stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. So shout out to you, thank you. And for those of you, if you want to do something for our 1-year anniversary, give us a little 1-year present. Head over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. And even if you don't write anything, that's okay. But if you write something goofy.
Write something.
But it'd be great if you did that. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you in the rest of the Mockingjay games. And we appreciate it.
Thank you.
We really do appreciate it. Love you guys.
Good night.